In this video you will see a very fun Risk gameplay in which one hitman player was going after me, but then he suddenly changed his mind to be my bodyguard to help me out to get rid of all of my opponents. It was very unexpected gameplay, but I hope you will enjoy watching it as much as I enjoyed it playing. This is another Risk Global Domination 6-player game played with fixed cards. Settings: Alliances on, balance blitz dice rolls in 60 seconds per turn. I'm the green player in this game and I'm going last, so I'm going to get 3 extra troops for the very first turn of mine. The pink player got so lucky to get a continent in her first turn. It was risky decision to take these not very safe blitz rolls and the same time capture the continent when not having even troops to defend it, but in case she successfully holds it, then of course it is going to favor her a lot. So far I'm not sure which continent I will go for. Africa looked like a possibility, but the red player has already showed that he is going for it by adding his troops here. And alright, surprisingly the yellow player didn't add his troops in Australia, and with the black player not going for it as well, I think it will be mine. And I said surprisingly because Australia seems to be the most popular continent, especially when it comes to low-rank players. They don't even hesitate to fight for it until one of them is dead. So unless you have quite more troops than anybody else in Australia, then it's better not to risk going for it. Even if you add your troops there first, some noob will still add his troops here wanting to fight with you, which in result can totally ruin the game for both of you. And the same thing can actually be with South America as well. Unless you have quite more troops in it than anybody else, then it can be risky to go for it as well. That's another most wanted continent of inexperienced players who value continents as the most important thing, who go by the logic of getting continent at any cost, even if they have to completely destroy themselves. So that's probably not that hard to guess what destiny is awaiting for the pink and blue players. By fighting for South America they just made themselves as the weakest players, so it's very likely that both of them will be eliminated soon, maybe even before they will be able to trade in their first set. And after all, South America will belong for some other player, for the one who gets lucky to have a bigger army next to them near, and then just simply take over the cleared out South America with no efforts at all. Since the red player is already going for Africa, the yellow player could potentially take South America from them, once he will be able to afford it, but even the red player by himself could potentially get it. And of course the black player could sneak in after trading in a set in case he is looking forward to get a continent as well rather than just putting his troops to one big army. Anyways, I'm taking over Australia. Unfortunately the yellow player neither moved his troops out nor used them to attack a territory, so it cost some troops for me after getting quite worse blitz roll than expected. But I mean the black player was blocked from Australia, so I knew he won't be able to invade me even if I get a bad blitz roll. And also I saw that my opponents are at 2 cards each, meaning that nobody of them will have a set. So I'm not sure why the black player crushed my 6 troops so randomly in Asia. I mean, there's no way someone would let him hold Asia if he is actually going for it. So why not to use these troops to go for another more reasonable continent, or just hoard them to one big army until some opportunity comes. Like the pink and blue players are so dead, and also it seems nobody goes for Europe yet. But of course if he wants to go for Asia, then I will just move these 3 troops from the Middle East out, so he could see by himself that nobody will let him hold Asia, and if before taking it out he wastes a lot of troops on other players, then he will make himself very weak that I might be even able to take him out. But anyways, as you can see the yellow player moved into Asia with his biggest army, so I think it should be obvious for the black player to not continue going for Asia or whatever his plans are, as I am not that really sure. But I mean maybe the yellow player will just go to Europe, so the black player will be able to continue going for Asia. Or maybe I'm thinking too deep, maybe the black player just thought that it was a great idea to combine his armies while crushing those my troops at the same time, ending up wasting his troops as well. I mean the thing which can be very obvious for a Grandmaster rank player, might not be necessarily obvious for a low rank player at all. Well, that's quite bad that he got a 10 troop set at 3 cards. Hopefully I'm still safe in Australia. No, come on man, don't do that, please don't add your troops here. Let's just have an alliance and I won't bother you to go for Asia. I will just leave my army in Australia while capturing a territory in Europe. I doubt you would get it anyways. You could still try going for it. I think I'm dead, guys. I don't have a set at 3 cards and the black player is going to clear me out from Australia, and then probably either red or yellow will finish me wiping out from Europe to get my cards. The least I expected to be one of the players to get eliminated first, but looking from the bright side I might still finish higher than the blue player who is absolutely dead. The black player accepted my alliance request, but I mean, why would you fortify your army like that if you want to be allies? So I think the black player will try taking Australia from me anyways. Black seems to be a hitman in Risk whose goal to eliminate one concrete player, who in this case unfortunately me. Firstly black crushed my 2 troops, then 6, and now he wants to clear me out in Australia. So now I need to think of ways on what would be the best to do to survive. To crush my Australian troops into black probably would be the worst idea, as first of all it's unknown if he will 100% go for Australia, and that attack wouldn't save me from losing Australia anyways. Even if getting a very favorable blitz roll attacking black's army, the continent would be cleared out for another player anyways. So more reasonable option is just to add the troops I'm going to get on the border and hope that the black player changes his mind. But I mean, if he wants to clear me out from Australia, then he would do that anyways. So what I decided to do, is to add my gotten troops into Europe, so if after all the black player still goes for Australia, then I won't end up as dead and have slightly better chances to survive. As the red and yellow players might not have their sets at 4 cards, and additionally the red player is supposed to be my ally after all. And phew, my Australian troops haven't gotten crushed after all. So maybe the black player decided to be allies for real, especially with him fortifying his troops from Australia and not threatening me anymore. It seems the game is totally over for the blue and pink players though. They were both very desperate to go for South America and got extremely mad on each other so much that at the end they didn't even care to win anymore. Or maybe just didn't realize how dumb was to fight for it. Nobody of them wanted to give up on going for South America, so this is what we have as a result at the end. Both of them are finishing in the last 2 places. But anyways, that's fun to compare to mine and black's situation. It could have ended up being in the same exact result, but instead of being enemies and targeting each other, we decided to make an alliance and be good. Instead of having a war, we decided to be in peace. And if the black player wants to go for Asia, then he can absolutely go for it. I'm pretty sure the red player would invade him anyways. And again, I'm not exactly sure if he actually wants to go for it or what his plans are. But I won't just bother him. The least thing is needed for me what he would targeting me, with the red player having South America and Africa and with every turn having more and more of the advantage. So what I want is what red and black eventually would be an issue for each other, while I could stay neutral as long as possible. As fighting specifically any of them right now alone by myself, would just highly worsen my position. So what I hope is that the black player captures some continent, and then the red player attacks him. At the end they get mad on each other, and with them highly destroying each other I win the game. Well, obviously the red player is quite stronger than black, so unless the red player gets weakened somehow, then I'm pretty sure I will have to help out the black player to attack him if I see it's needed. But also let's not forget about the yellow player. Not sure what he is going to do, but I hope the red player is the strongest player considers eliminating him. Let's just strengthen Australia, so I will be sure to successfully hold it. I don't want that someone would potentially steal it from me later on in the game. Even though the black player seems to be friends with me now, I don't want that he would suddenly decide to change his mind when seeing such an opportunity. Of course it wouldn't be a great idea with the red player having Africa and South America and at the same time being the strongest player, but I mean, you can never know what low-rank player can decide to do. But even master rank players do some dumber mistakes sometimes, so I need to be careful. And oh no guys, the black player is running out of time to take the yellow player out, so obviously the red player wins right now. I'm much more weaker than him, and basically all the territories of black are made of ones, so unless the red player runs out of time taking the black player out, I doubt I have any chances to win at all. To be honest, it was a big mistake for the red player to instantly go for yellow before capturing a lot of territories of black. When you're forced to trade in a set after taking someone out, the timer resets by 30 seconds, so by taking the yellow player out before half of the time was passed, the red player made himself to get quite less additional time. So if I were red by seeing that I wouldn't have enough time to take out black, then I would have taken out green having more troops than both of my opponents combined, or at least would have crushed his biggest Australian army, at the same time getting the advantage as an attacker. But now the game after all hasn't been lost yet, with the red player not doing much as a player who had more troops than both of his opponents combined. To take out black would have been a bad idea for me, as obviously then I would have lost the 1 versus 1 endgame with the red player by being quite weaker. So what I did is invaded the red player into Africa, leaving the black player alive so he would help me out to sustain the balance of the game against overpowered red. The red player still has more troops than both of us combined, but with him having so many different smaller armies instead of one big one, and especially with having them next to each other making them very isolated, I think we will very likely be able to make the comeback. I'm trading in a 10 troop set, so I think it's safe to say that the red player is prevented from dominating the game. Also, another good thing is that the red player is moving quite slow, so that decreases his chances to keep sustaining the advantage even more. He doesn't capture as much as he really could, and that lets us to make a comeback. Even the black player isn't as weak anymore, and with both of us targeting red, the red player should not be the strongest player anymore very soon. Also, if he suddenly decides to go taking out black, then I'm pretty sure he would end up running out of time. Probably it would be a very dumb idea to leave my 10 troops army blocked in the bottom of Africa, so I'm fortifying these troops next to North America, as it really seems the red player will be going for it, so it's good to be prepared. Of course there is still the Australian army which I could use, but then I would need to go through a bunch of territories of black, and if I capture a lot of them, then the red player could potentially consider taking the black player out for his cards. I want that the black player would continue having a lot of territories, as it lets him get additional troops even without having any continent at all. As you know that the more territories you have, the more troops you get, and fewer territories your opponent has, the fewer troops he gets. When you have 12 territories you start getting 4 troops as the territorial bonus instead of 3, and then every 3 territories from 12 you get 1 extra troop as well. So for example, if you have 15 territories, then you get 5 troops in your turn. Anyways, I had a 10 troop set at 3 cards which I could have used to have better chances of invading the red player into North America, but I wanted that the black player would continue attacking the red player a lot by himself as well, so I would potentially be able to take over advantage without them really noticing that. As with the black player keep being quite weaker comparing to us, and with the red player not being as strong anymore, I could potentially be able to take over Asia or other big continents with him not being able to invade me. So just the bad thing is that the red player doesn't retaliate against the black player as expected. So that unfortunately won't let me win the game that easily as I was thinking. The red player has noticed where everything is going to, so now he isn't attacking as much to not break the balance of the game in my favor. So with the red player not attacking black, it would be the best for me to start attacking the black player by myself now if I want to sustain the advantage. But with the black player so intensively crushing the red player's troops, I think it would be worth a shot to wait for one more turn to see what the black player does. It really seems he changed from being a hitman who wanted to get rid of me, to a personal bodyguard who tries to deal with all and any of my opponents. And as you just saw, even overdoing. After the black player suiciding on red, the balance of the game is broken, so now I can obviously take both of them out. The game could have perfectly continued with all of us balancing each other, but since the black player obviously ruined the game, I think it will be more fair if I give the second place for the red player. As much as his alliance was appreciated, he must realize that you shouldn't sacrifice yourself just to make your ally win. The alliances are just temporary thing and everyone should play to win. In any case, this game wasn't ranked anyways, so ranking wise nobody gets hurt either way.